Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of PMP's Den of Antiquities. Today we got an awesome new segment on the channel that I'm coining Thank the Maker. Not super original. There's plenty of other people out there who do that, but I like that title, so that's what we're calling this. And basically what that is I find artists and makers from all across the Star Wars galaxy and bring them on to shed light on their businesses and the stuff that they make and kind of what drives them, and also maybe to give a little inspiration and a starting off point if you want to get into that sort of stuff. So today we have on the Galactic Mercantile Guild, and I have on Nick and Mars. Nick's been on quite a few times. He has his own solo podcast where he talks about his love of the franchise, and he's been on every roundtable underneath the sun. So you guys probably know him if you've been on the channel. And then Mars is new today, and we're going to get right into it, guys. So whoever wants to go first about talking about the guild and what kind of started that and y'all's inspiration behind it, go for it.
Take it away, Mars.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Mars, and my store is called That Corner in Coruscant. The same thing with my socials, That Corner in Coruscant. I kind of started out the guild, the Galactic Mercantile Guild, with the idea of, I'm going to paint a scene for you. Like, you just arrived at a random planet with civilization. And you found out, like, right next to the spaceport, there's a long street of just peddlers and, basically a market. And every single people who sell stuff over there basically know each other, and they can recommend you all other people's wares. Like, oh yeah, you're looking for leather goods? Oh, just go over there, make a left or whatever. So that's the way that the whole Galactic Mercantile Guild idea was, to have a community of makers that knows each other. They talk to each other. We meet at least nowadays, probably once per quarter at least, and share, their trials and tribulations, ideas, and, just build the community up, share designs, and try not to step on each other's toes. I always joke about, like, having a bunch of makers in one room. It's kind of like a giant Mexican standoff of just Greeblies. But luckily all the members have been super great, and instead we share ideas, we show each other's work in progress, and no one's been, like, within the guild itself, actually, like, no one has any problem with each other.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. The guns hasn't been pulled yet.
Tune in next week. No, I'm just kidding.
And the idea started with, I keep forgetting his name. I mean his store name. It's Junk Trader Outpost. Gray and Non over on Instagram. Adam. So he approached me because I was doing water bottles before. I don't know if you can see it. It's right over here.
Yeah, I'll have some displayed over top while we're talking about it. Stuff like that.
So I did water bottles before, and he calls it the hydro containment unit. He's a lot smarter than I am. And he was like, hey, I know you do all these water bottles. Do you mind if I start doing them? I'm like, dude, no, go ahead. Like, I'm not the type of person who likes confrontation, and I don't mind. The way that I always say it during meeting, and Nick can attest me to this, like, the pie is so big that everyone can eat it. Like, I don't care sharing the pie, because the more my friends make money or just become a maker, that means there's a higher chance that I can meet them in Batu, because so they can afford it. Right? Because going to Batu is expensive to certain people, especially if they have to fly out. So when Adam approached me with that idea, I was like, yeah, go ahead. And he started doing it. And I'm like, what if I just started talking to a lot of different people and see if they have the same idea? And I tried to, like, approach it, like, not in a way that I don't know, Nick, how did I approach you?
It's honestly been a while. There's a lot has happened since you've originally approached me. But I think it was just something along the lines of, like, hey, I'm putting together this crew. You said you liked a lot of the stuff I did. It was unique to some. It wasn't really something none of the other members have had yet. So you're just like, come on in, and enjoy the fun.
Right, because basically my idea was it's not limiting to, there's one leather guy, one Greebly guy, because it's impossible because there's so many awesome makers. And I think almost all of us does Greeblies. There's no way to monopolize, only one person does it. So I approach a bunch of people. We've only added one member so far, and because he's so good at what he does. And I just basically tell him like, hey, I'm putting something together. Maybe you guys are interested. And in the originals, I believe it was 11 of us or 10 of us that says, yeah, this is a great idea. Let's have a meeting. And of course, any group project, I can't do it. Let's do it next Friday. No, can't do it. Right? So eventually we did get to a meeting. Our first meeting, I think the most productive one. And that's the one that Nick missed.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, with the hurricane and stuff. So he had real life problem to deal with, not galactic problem. And we had our first meeting, like a couple of things that, you wouldn't think that a Galactic Mercantile Guild would meet. You would think like, we're just messing around, whatever. No, like first information is like, this is how you create your LLC. This is how you, get your business insurance. This is how you get yourself protected. Put your disclaimers, make sure kids don't choke on your things, right? So those are the kind of things that we talked about. And then towards the end, most of the time he's like, hey, here's just show and tell. This is what I have for my store. And then a few months later, we ended up just doing a group project together, which is the Galactic Mercantile Guild coins. Some of us are involved in it. And I believe we might be doing a second run soon. Depending on, because a couple of us are moving, and there's a lot of changes. Like I believe Nick is concentrating on a bunch of more files, like digital files instead of actual production. And Makermatics moved to UK today. He's actually moving to UK.
That's crazy. Yeah,
so he's moving production technically, and like a couple of us started buying resin printers because of the guild. I guess they're all FOMOing about the resin printing stuff. And they're developing new skills and we encourage people to do that in the guild. I don't know, Nick, can you tell me your experience more like being in the guild?
Yeah, it's been great because, I mean, you talked about this a little bit, but along with sharing information between us all, yesterday I got a message, someone that said they reached out to you, I think originally, and then you passed them on to me to make a little ship model of Gaia's ship for this little board game that they're working on. So just passing people along to other people have really been helpful to get either our names out there or just to fit the needs of what that customer wants. Mm-hmm. And the collaboration and the cross promotion between us all has been great because if one person posts something, a new product, we have a fleet of people promoting that product already through their stories and everything. So it's been great.
Like, I mean, the way that I see it, like you have a food court of a lot of food from different countries. And if a customer is not looking to eat Japanese food, you can't force feed them to eat Japanese food.
Yeah, just point them across.
And we just point out, hey, Chinese food's right there, or like. So we have, I believe, I think with the 12 of us, we have enough network so far to just point out to each other like what if a customer needs something. I think the only thing that we're missing right now is somebody who does cloth or sewing in general. I have a couple of people in mind, but they're still their businesses are still new. Okay. And they haven't approached me with the idea yet. I don't know if they watch this video, they might get that idea. But,
you know who you are?
I mean, usually it just starts off with a simple like, hey, what about the guild, right? Like, how can I join the guild? And we're pretty open about it. And, obviously, like, we don't want to sound like we're the elite that's looking down like, oh, what are you guys doing? It's not, the intention's not like that at all. Like, we want to be as inclusive as possible, but at the same time, like, we have a certain standard to fill. like we if you don't meet those certain standards, because I mean, one person in the guild represents the entire guild. If one person in the guild does something bad, it's going to represent every single one of us. Because like I hate saying this, but like if a guild approves of something, that means unanimously we agreed on it. But yeah, like, I mean, I do a lot of Greeblies that I started with. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit later, like how I started. I do a lot of Greeblies. I think out of the 12, I have the most inventory in terms of Halcyon related stuff. And I try to balance myself with the things that I don't really create with my hand versus the things that I create with my hand. So I have stickers, and all the Greeblies that I have, I created by, like, I don't outsource it anywhere else. So that's why I do weekly drop dates and limited amount. Like I release X amount this Sunday, and then if it's out, it goes back to the bottom of the restock circle. So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, yeah, I guess let's that was an awesome intro. I think that gave a lot of people a good insight into y'all's guild. Why don't we shed some light on both of your shops? I don't know who wants to kind of go first. I know Mars, you kind of loosely talked about it, but I'd like to go a little bit more in depth with it, and also Nick too. I personally know, but I know the viewer doesn't know. So
we can just keep going with Mars since we've already kind of touched on some of his products. So you can just keep going.
Very cool.
Okay, so my story is called That Corner in Coruscant. The whole idea is because I wanted, when someone asks a customer of mine is like, "Hey, where'd you get that?" I was like, "Oh, got it from That Corner in Coruscant." Like, some kind of nudge, like, this guy is probably in the gray market or whatever. Because all the stuff that we do, some of them isn't really in the gray area, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But it started off because I found some files on Thingiverse, like most of 3D printers or makers started off. I don't know anything about 3D design before. And then started seeing that a lot of people design with Tinkercad, and then COVID happened. So, and then I had a bunch of 3D printers that I use for D&D miniatures that I have not been using because my group, like, we can't play because COVID.
Right.
And
right.
I do not like playing D&D using virtual means, because I prefer the,
takes away from the immersion.
Yeah, the immersion, because I set up because my background is a graphic designer. My other side business is a D&D battle mat company.
Nice. Okay.
So you see a little bit of boxes over here, but this entire wall right here is just boxes of terrains.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So I do a lot of in-person and everything, you can see the models and everything. And I've been a miniature painter for 20 plus years. And then Galaxy's Edge opened up. This is right before COVID. It was December 2019. That was the first time that I went to, I believe it opened in May, but we waited until December for my birthday to go. And then just my life changed after that. I was like, I came in with, I don't wear anything green. I don't wear anything military looking or earth colors. But for that day, I was wearing, like, I try to kind of fit in, the whole rebel military thing.
Right. Yeah.
I was wearing green. And then I was looking at the people that worked there, the cast members. I'm like, oh, they have stuff. I didn't even know what a Greebly back then yet. I didn't even know the name of what a Greebly is. Like, I'm a Star Wars fan, but I'm more of, I found out about it in adulthood.
Right.
Because I grew up in a different country that sci-fi isn't really a thing. Like, they want rom-coms and horrors.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then I found out about costuming, and I started making little Thingiverse, and then I started learning how to use Tinkercad. I was like, dude, this is just playing with Legos, but instead of buying Legos, you make your own pieces.
Right. Yeah.
And it just kept going. And then I posted over on Black Spire Outpost Bounding Group, and people were like, where can I where can I get it? Like, how can I buy it? And in the beginning, I released my files over on Thingiverse, and I was like, hey, tips are welcome. And then the first day I posted up, the next day I'm like, that sounds ridiculous that I'm hoping to get tips. Like, I'm sabotaging myself. I mean, that's my opinion. Like, I think I'm sabotaging myself. So I think I'm just going to make them. Like, I just print it and I just start printing, and then I start taking orders through Facebook Messenger. And there's just way too much logistics in that where I got to keep track. Okay, this guy's buying this.
Yeah.
And then I was still handwriting all the shipping labels.
Oh, fun. That's gonna be a blast.
And then it grew really fast. And I was like, I think I need an Etsy. But then during that time, I was already like, okay, if I'm going to have an Etsy, I want to have X amount of items to start with, because I want to have enough inventory of things. So I started with, like, I believe 7 stickers. And then gradually I started adding the Greeblies in. And then my first investment that I have in my shop was the thermal label printer. And that is still the best investment that I have for the store, because I don't have to write everything anymore. But yeah, and then they announced Galactic Star Cruiser. So I had the magic carrot that was there for me. That was my end goal. It's like, I gotta go, and the store is the one that's gonna make me able to go. So I just keep saving up, and I keep making more things every time I go to Galaxy's Edge, or every time I watch, the movies, the TV series, the animation series. I get inspiration from that. I tend to lean over to original character stuff. So almost maybe 80% of the things that I create is not a replica of something, because I do not like it when someone counts the rivets of my models.
Oh, yeah.
To match, like, oh, that's not like,
I have 4, there's actually 7.
Yeah, like, you're 2 millimeters off. I don't like that at all. So I lean hard over on original characters, and I believe, and I mean, I say this over in guild meetings all the time. Like, everyone wants to be Jedi, everyone wants to be Scoundrel, Sith, whatever. No one wants to be the space janitor, right? So, and then in the background, I do a lot of Droidsmith and Droid Builders Club stuff. At least the Droid Depot, not the big boy ones. So at first, my products were leaning hard towards Droidsmiths. And then the more and more I do costuming, the more I see the potential of people wearing things for their Batu bound, things to go to Star Cruiser. My stuff just keeps evolving. And I believe I'm at like 110 or 120 different SKUs of my shop already, like just variation of items.
Very cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good and bad problem to have at the same time.
Yeah.
Because, at one end, somebody who really likes item A is not going to see it restocked until item D gets restocked, right? It just goes back to the circle and restocking. But I tend to focus on the popular items, like the Gaia stuff obviously is the most, especially now that they're closing. Yeah. But yeah, mostly my shop does costuming, accessories, Greeblies, like these, put it on, pins. And social media wise, I try to post more cosplay stuff because it's fun.
Very cool. Very cool. I have a question for you, because I always like to, there's always, there's no right or really wrong. There's, like you were saying, there's guidelines on how you do certain things, but there's no really within the maker community. There's, the sky's the limit. What made you kind of go from, because I'm on the opposite end. I'm all like made to order. So I have pictures of everything. And then once you buy it, I make it. And sometimes stuff takes 2 days, sometimes stuff takes a month, it depends on what made you go from kind of deciding, hey, I'm going to do batch ordering instead of like made to order. Cause I know everybody has their own different things, but I always love to hear the thought process behind it.
I was actually thinking about the answer to this question, even though we never had any conversation about it. I was thinking about this question. I was going to make a post about it in the story. because I mentioned this in a different group chat for the Burgundy Squadron. Because I was telling them what I do for a living. So I'm an IT by day, and whatever that job entitles me to do. And then I have this Etsy, the Star Wars Etsy. I have also private commissions to do Star Wars props. I'm also, sometimes I do miniature painting commissions for studios. I can keep going, and then the battle map.
Right.
So all of that combines into one, and basically you'll find out that I probably have about 2 hours of my spare time in a day.
Right.
I can work on something.
Army of one. You got to do everything, you know?
Yeah. I don't like chasing order that way.
That's fair.
That makes sense.
Because, I don't know when I will have that 2 hours.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
Because
fair.
right now, the meeting right now happens at 7:00 your time.
Mm-hmm.
So from 4:00 until 6:30 my time, that's the grace period that I have that I can spend on whatever I want before my wife gets back home.
Right. I feel that.
As she gets back home, it's fair game.
Right.
And she happens to always just find me at the point where paint just got put out.
Right. Yeah.
Even though she's in a different room. So
it's the force that works in mysterious
so the reason
ways.
why I do drops like that is because I don't have time to chase orders. At
That's
one
totally
time,
fair.
and this is my biggest regret in the whole 2 years, was because I was chasing the funding for my first Halcyon trip. Because what happened was I was on the way to Disney World with my wife for a vacation that we needed for a long time. On my flight, right, I got the text message from one of my suite mates that, hey, the payment is due today. We're going. So by the time I got back, it was double whammy for me because it's credit card from the Disney World trip in Bahamas and the Star Cruiser hit at the same time.
Oh, gotta love that.
Yeah. So I was trying to chase that funding, and I got to pay it because I don't like paying extra debt. I try to pay it off every month. So I ended up taking pre-orders of my bounty trackers. That's the magic band cover with the fuel rod that you can use, to look like you're bounty hunting for the game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I took 24 orders of those. Yep, that one.
I can, here, Nick, let me, here, you want to hold it up one more time? Got you.
Let me get the other piece.
Got you zoomed in.
There you go.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah, I ended up doing 24 of those. One of those was actually Nick's mom's that ordered it in secret.
Shout out, Mom.
I took 24 of those pre-ordered. And that's because just friends messaging me, hey, can I get it? Hey, can I get it? I'm like, okay, you're my friend. I'll put you in the list. I ended up working my ass off for 2 months on that. And I hate having to message people, hey, I'm sorry this week I didn't have any time to do it. It's like, oh, but my trip is, in 2 days or whatever. I'm like, this is why. In my head, I'm like, this is why I don't like taking pre-orders or I'm chasing
that
orders.
added stress. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I mean, for example, for those bounty trackers, my next idea is actually, instead of dropping, 5 or 6 at a time, once in a while, once in a month, I'm actually going to do probably one off every week, but it's a different color every time.
Oh, cool. So something a little different.
Something different, something unique, and you'll have a one off that nobody else has.
Oh, that's cool.
That's
yeah,
true,
people
yeah.
love that.
Yeah, so different variations, because I can only paint black and silver so many times.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question in short format, I don't like chasing orders because I don't have time
totally
for
fair. Yeah, that's totally fair. Because I definitely feel that sometimes as well, where you're just it's weird how it happens sometimes too with the made to order stuff. Because sometimes some weeks will be you get a couple orders, then the next week it's just a clan of people. And I'm just are they planning this stuff? I get 10 orders in a week or 50, however many it is. I'm like, what is going on? Because it's weird. This all happens in one day. I'm like, are these people getting together and be let's overload it and let's go? But so you had mentioned that you were prepping things and making stuff for people to go on the Halcyon. And for people who don't know, you can like go on the Halcyon and like full cosplay, full like you're in the universe, total immersion. Now that it's kind of it's coming to an end, do you have to pivot at all? Like what's the next kind of step, or is it just still full steam ahead with what you're kind of doing because Galaxy's Edge is still enough?
This is a good question because it actually came up in our last meeting on the Galactic Mercantile Guild. We are monitoring our sales to see if anything changes, but luckily most of us started the shop prior to Halcyon even announced. So we're already making stuff for Bot 2. Yes, we do get affected by it. I mean, it sucks, but my prediction is we're still going to be seeing sales of Halcyon products maybe 6 months after the closure until whatever new that they're going to announce that's immersion related, because I believe that they realize the potential of immersive activities.
Oh yeah.
Maybe Bot 2 will get better, right? You don't know, right?
Right.
Maybe we'll eventually get that costuming shop in Bot 2 that they promised.
Fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed.
Like I am 70% not worried about it.
Very cool. Very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. Like I understand that everyone's pretty much panic buying for their last trip.
Right.
I'm enjoying the uptick.
Right.
But when September hits, I don't know. We'll find out. Like I can answer you better in September.
Right. Yeah, maybe we need to have another kind of roundtable sort of thing. But yeah, I think with, we have Celebration every year. People always need stuff for their like, rebel leaders or for cosplays and Comic-Cons and stuff like that. So, well, I agree. I think you might take a little bit of a dip. I think there's always going to be nerdy stuff that people need, nerdy like Greeblies and building their own characters or even building somebody from the world. I'm sure, there's plenty of stuff for that. So, but I was curious because Nick had brought that up and I was like, wow, man, I didn't even think about that because like it had like just been announced, like a couple months ago. Like
who knows? We might have Greeblies for space janitors, right?
That'd be cool, man. That'd be cool. Well, hopefully they do. They, because the Halcyon takes up such a large, it's basically like just like a large, like I don't know if it's like warehouse or whatever it is, but hopefully they fill something else with that's just as immersive and maybe something that's more inclusive to like the everyday goer too. So it might be a little dip for now, and then it increases when they create something more immersive that the every average day Joe could go to.
So what I think, I don't know if Nick can agree to this, but I think what happened with the Halcyon is not the closure. I meant just the idea of having the immersive experience, and while you're not required, you would want to go in costume because it's so expensive to go. Like this is your once in a lifetime when you get to go, and people are willing to pay for the extra things that they wear because one, the picture is going to look better with it. You look more in universe, right? And another thing that I actually do one of the reasons why I do what I do to make the Greeblies is I like to make conversation starters with the characters. Like for example, the singing stones that I make.
Here, I'm gonna throw you up on the solo.
Yeah, the singing stones. Like this says you're a Gaia fan. You're in the in crowd, and you get a conversation started with as soon as Gaia sees that, she's gonna know that you're her fan, or in your backstory you work with her or whatever. And from what I hear, a couple of the characters actually use my products and name drop my name, and they name drop my name to see like to recruit certain characters to go. I mean, a guest to go on certain paths.
Oh, that's cool. That's
really cool. From my hearsay that I hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I was like, isn't it supposed to be the other way around? I'm supposed to be. Yeah. So, maybe one day we do that with Batu, right? Like,
yeah, that'd be cool.
I mean, whenever I wear my stuff in Batu, and then Vimarati or Ray saw my things, and they're like, "Oh, where'd you like?" It's a conversation starter.
Very cool, man. Very cool. And then the last little piece that I have is I always like hearing people's creative process and what advice that they would give to somebody who maybe doesn't know how to either whether it be 3D printing or making greeblies. Like, what advice would you have somebody who kind of wants to step into that world, maybe as a hobby or even as a business?
As a hobby, so let's start off with 3D printing as a hobby. And when it comes to Star Wars stuff, right? Look for inspiration from all the materials that they have, like even comic books, even people already made stuff, cosplay pictures. Look for inspiration, close it while you're designing. Don't look at it and design at the same time unless you're making a replica, so that you'll come up with your own style. And because I think at the end of the day, it's a lot more rewarding when people wear your stuff. And it's not because, hey, that's Luke's lightsaber. Who made it? There's 10 other makers. Like, unless you're really into the subject, you're not going to know who makes that product, right? Like, right now, I'm pretty well trained that I can see any pictures of Halcyon and see a Greebley and be like, oh, that's Mos Gracchus. Oh, that's jettisonable, right? Like, you want to, I guess the short way to put it is make your footstep known in the world by making your own things. So look for inspiration, obviously, because I mean, some of us needs a little push on how to create stuff, right? Look for inspiration, but as soon as you've already found the inspiration, close that. Like, don't look at it, make it first, and then you go back at it, you look at it and see like, oh, does this look in universe enough? Because, if you look at Star Wars stuff and then suddenly it's like, oh, this looks very Star Trek to me.
Yeah.
Like, it goes a little too far, and then you dial it back. And another piece of advice that I can give you is don't oversimplify 3D printing. It's meant to be difficult. Like, the learning curve is not like learning how to use a pencil at 3-year-old.
Right.
But at the same time, don't give up on it, because it took me 2 years to get where I am. It's literally like keyboard, just like,
yeah.
I gotta do.
You gotta throw your printers out the window.
Yeah, like I gotta do this. Yeah. Like, I gotta get it right. And I mean, if you keep pushing it and if you keep asking for advice from people that knows what they're doing, you'll get there. Whether you make money off of it, that's a totally different story.
Yeah, right, for sure. But that's awesome, man. I appreciate you shedding some light on that. I think that's all the questions I have for you. So unless you have anything else, we'll move on to Nick and his shop.
I want to hear what Nick says.
All right, okay. All right, Nick, you have the spotlight, man.
Well, I'm Nick, owner of Custom Galactic Supplies, or CGS Props. I'm a prop and costume fabricator and painter. My focus is on high quality replicas, custom projects, hence the name, and a variety of 3D files as well. And of course, my best seller in the shop currently is my lightsaber blade carrier. I got my start with building Mandalorian armor from a family friend, I believe in 2015, I think. I saw a picture of his armor that he made, or my mom showed me, I guess, and I'm just like, I want one. How do I get one? So instead of him making one for me, he taught me how to do it. He taught me how to cut the templates out, cut it out on Sintra, form it, paint it, all that fun stuff. And from there, I went into 3D printing, where I started doing a bit of modeling. I think my first ever model was a droid finger, I believe, using Tinkercad.
For the necklace, right?
Yeah, for the necklace. Printed that out, made my first mold with that, casted a bunch of them, did a whole line of fingers with the a whole line of necklaces with them. Actually, a little bit before that, I did a clone commando helmet, molded that, casted that, and that I think was the very first product I ever had on my shop, was a line of custom clone commando helmets. So that was a fun learning curve, because first time ever doing a brush on silicone mold, first time ever casting, first time ever like trimming a cast, all that fun stuff. Yeah, I think that's generally it for how I got started.
Does the audience know how young you are?
I'm 19.
Yeah.
20 this year.
So you started at 2015, man.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, I think that tracks.
That's crazy. I was surprised when you said that, because you were like, "Yeah, I'm like, I'm doing. I don't want to share your business or your personal business with you, but yeah, I'm doing this. And I'll be like, oh man, I thought you were a lot older than what you are. I was like, holy crap.
No, I was the school I went to was a Montessori school, so they really encouraged to basically do your own stuff. Especially
awesome.
For the last. For 11th and 12th, and my class was only literally 5 kids. Our graduating class was a total of 12 students too. So
that's crazy. Dude.
But through 11th and 12th, my friend and I, he was big into photography. He's now in college down in the Florida Keys, doing a bunch of scuba diving and such. But he was big into photography, and I was doing my business. So we actually got to leave school early most of the days to go work on our individual stuff. And that's how I definitely improved a lot of my skills, was because my school was so giving, I guess, with the time.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wish more schools did stuff like that, really help people kind of figure out their passions,
Like, how many 14-year-olds may build a Mandalorian armor?
Not many. Not me at 14.
Yeah, man. Like, that's crazy achievement, man.
Thank you. I guess a continuation off of that, because it's a totally different aspect, would be 3D modeling. While I mentioned before, I started in Tinkercad, did I think 3 or 4 models. It was the droid finger, the 2 clone trooper medals I still have up on the site, and the separatist encryption module, all from the Clone Wars. And I've used Tinkercad up until the hurricane, because while I was away from my home for that few months, because Ian destroyed the only way to get on and off of the island to my home, I started learning a new modeling software called Shaper 3D in, what was that, September, I think, of last year. And that has really spiked my game props from Andor, which came out the same time all this was happening. I remember Mars and I were talking a lot about the Premor communicator.
Yeah.
We were sharing a bunch of references about that.
That was the same time that I switched to Fusion. So he switched to Shaper. I went to Fusion.
Yeah. So that was like right after you invited me to the guild too. So I was really thankful for that, because then I got so much references. And then the other, the other 3D file I have is the Premor holo projector, which I got all the references from another guild member, Derek from Van Oaks Props.
Mm-hmm.
He got the missile game,
the one that kind of looked like the Atari controller.
Oh yeah, it was nice. It was like a Missile Invader game, I think, was the actual toy that they used in the show. He got one, and he sent me a bunch of references and measurements so I could make my file as accurate as possible. So that was great. And my latest endeavor is the hyperspace compass from the Star Cruiser Halcyon. Which,
we're revealing it now?
I guess so, yeah. Well, I've been posting about it a bunch, so people already know about it.
Yeah, dude, it's looking sick.
But thank God for Marissa, because for Behind the Ears, Walt Disney World, I think is her Instagram, for getting me all those amazing shots on our last voyage, because I wouldn't be as far as I am now with that model if it wasn't for her. But yeah, I guess to just circle everything back to the beginning, my love just comes from painting, props and costumes, and I'm just always eager to improve my painting skills to hopefully get picked up one by film, movie, what have you. I'm now building an online portfolio and resume to kind of help that all out as well. So
nice, dude.
That's about it.
I wasn't doing that when I was 19. Yeah.
Kind of talk a little bit about, we already kind of talked about 3D printing, so we won't talk about that, but maybe because your paint jobs on a lot of your stuff are just like, dude, you knock it out of the park every time I see a new helmet or, new Greebly, or whatever it is that you're making. Maybe tell us a little advice you would have for somebody who maybe they have the 3D printing skills or the modeling skills or something like that, but taking a step into painting seems a little daunting for them. Do you have any advice that you would give them to maybe, I know it's a whole vast array of techniques and stuff like that, but maybe something to get their foot in the door?
I guess something really broad would just be less is always more, especially, I mean, that's really it for everything, whether it's modeling like a Greebly or something, or in a painting stance, specifically weathering. That's always the one thing I struggled with in the beginning, and even I'm kind of just figuring it out now still. But I feel like that's the biggest thing I see with a lot of people's armor and stuff. It's just a lot, especially with the scratches. If you're doing a bunch of scratches and what have, I'm trying to think if I have an example somewhere, but I don't. But like it's
behind you.
I got one here too. This is an old one that I did, but it's just very minor scratches. There's no like big, like, I don't know. I guess the thing I see the most is like the stereotypical 3 scratch lines across a helmet. But what takes it out for me is the scratches are like 2 inches wide on each one. They're like all blobby and stuff, and that's just not how it would be in real life. So I guess using other tools to create thinner lines, like a toothpick or a smaller toothbrush, paintbrush, can really help you with that little bit of change from thicker blobby weathering or chipping to something thinner will definitely enhance the look of your work. And I've definitely found that out to be more helpful recently, I think.
I mean, I think that separates like the good prop maker versus the one they just started. Doesn't mean that they're not good. Just means that they started out, right? Yeah.
So I think that little change can really increase the visual storytelling of your piece to just make it a bit more realistic. And yeah, it's something I didn't know about when I first started. All my helmets were, but it just takes time. I think time is also one of the big things too.
Yeah, time and patience, that's for sure. Lots of patience.
For sure.
Like, the faces that people make when they find out how much sanding they have to do for any piece of armor.
Oh yeah.
Like that's the easiest like first boss, basically. If you can't pass that first boss, don't even move forward.
For sure, for sure. Well, thank you guys both for coming on and talking a little bit about your shop and talking about the guild. If you guys don't have anything else to say, we'll move on to some of the other guild members in y'all's group, and we'll go from there. But if you guys have any closing words, we can say them now. No, you good?
Go next.
No words for me.
All right. Well,
I mean, stay tuned to more guild stuff, I guess.
Yeah,
That's a good one. That's a good
I
one.
mean, even though the Halcyon is closing, we're still going to be producing stuff. I mean, hopefully we can add more members soon. I mean, the more the merrier, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna continue to just produce.
And let the good people know where they can find the guild itself at. We'll have all the links down below of all the guild members and their shop names and stuff like that. But where can they find like the guild itself?
The easiest one is galacticmercantileguild.com.
Okay.
Or if you're on social at Galactic Mercantile Guild. Thanks to James from Jettisonable that handles all that like internet stuff. Because he's used to all of it. He's just get it over with. We need to have one location, and then it's easier. GalacticMercantileGuild.com or at Galactic Mercantile Guild, and then within that, each one of us there's a link tree of each of our shops.
Yeah, all that'll also be down below, guys, as well. So you can find that down below as well. Well, thank you guys both for coming on, and thank you guys for watching.